2020 was a season unlike any other in the NFL, but the 2021 season is already shaping up to be a crazy one with all the potential blockbuster trades that could be happening this offseason. Welcome into Penn State Sports Night. I'm Kelly Warner, joined alongside by Evan Lasek and Jeremy Ganes, and tonight we will be discussing all of their thoughts on the current rumors in the NFL and which trades they think will go down and which they think are just talk. Let's start off with the biggest one currently, Desean Watson. He asked to leave Houston, but they don't want him to go. Will he be a Texan next season?
Desean Watson's not going to be wearing a Houston Texan jersey next year. I think what they're going to do is he holds all the power right now. They kind of screwed him over. They said, you have all the say in who we hire as a head coach, as a GM. You're going to have say in what we do this offseason. Then they kind of went behind his back, traded everybody away. They just cut J.J. Watt. So I think it's a new era in Houston. I don't think he wants to be a part of it. He's made it very clear he doesn't want to be a part of it. So I think the best thing for them to do is hold off on the right price. They saw Matt Stafford go for 2 first rounds. He can get a lot more than Matt Stafford. But I don't think this happens right away. I think it heats up more towards the draft, and I think as it goes on, they're going to find out, hey, these QBs are kind of going. We can get a lot for him. But if anything, if they don't trade him, I don't see him playing at all next season. I see him holding out, and I see him not just taking a season off, kind of healing, kind of getting right, and then maybe next season, if he can't force a trade during the season, then he's just going to sit out, and I think that would be worth it for him, honestly.
There's a couple factors to this situation that you have to look at. First of all, just look at this man. He doesn't want to be there. He's so sad. He wants to get out. Now, the Texans don't want him to leave because he's the only thing relevant left in that franchise because they've gotten rid of everybody else. Got rid of his star receiver. They've gotten rid of all the veteran pieces that they've had, including J.J. Watt, who we'll get to in just a second. But I don't necessarily think he has all the leverage in terms of a contract negotiation and sitting out. He stands to lose a lot of money if he doesn't play this season. It's more going about the Jamal Adams route, basically just annoying everybody as much as you can so that they want to get you out of the building. I think that's the way he's eventually going to have to go. And like you said, closer to the draft, I think we'll see a lot of movement on this. This is going to take a huge haul. You're looking at the Jets, the Dolphins, as teams that really have enough draft picks and cap space to make this work. The Texans don't want to move him, so what are they going to move him for? A huge package. You got to really entice them on this. The problem with the Jets is they don't have a lot of pieces. If they move all these picks for him, there's not a lot on the roster. They kind of do need those picks to build up the roster. The Dolphins are in a better position because they don't have their picks are not as valuable necessarily, but their roster is in a better place already. They have a proven head coach already with Brian Flores. A lot of people like him. So that's a better place where you could go in and win right away. San Francisco, the Niners, that's another excellent spot. Not sure if they necessarily have the kind of draft capital that the Jets and Dolphins do because they're a better team, but you can argue that they probably have the best roster of any team he could look to go to, replace Jimmy G, and come in with a bunch of weapons on that team already. George Kittle, an all-world tight end, and a running game and a defense. He'd be able to go in and win right away after toiling with the Texans these last few years of mediocre team that he's been with.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I could see the 49ers really easily. I think it is time for them to move on from Jimmy G. He's mediocre at best. He's a very average quarterback. They're one QB away from really just this offense exploding. Brian Flores, as you said, is a great coach, and I think a QB upgrade. They just took Tua, but you can't pass up on a guy like Desean Watson. I'm still looking in the AFC East, too, with New York Jets possibly giving up the number 2 pick, taking Desean Watson, moving on from Darnold, trading him for a first-round pick. Another team I'm looking at, maybe the Patriots. They went 7-9, I believe, with Cam Newton at the helm. I think Desean Watson just amplifies that offense. So all these teams, they're clearly going to give up their future, but I think Desean Watson is a guy that's really worth it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where he goes, but I know the Texans can't keep him because you can't play with a QB who doesn't want to be there. But some of the biggest speculation right now is over Carson Wentz and whether he will stay an Eagle. Where do you think Wentz will be playing come August?
Well, there's a couple locations that make sense, but it's a limited number because this is not an easy player to move. Obviously, everyone's talking about the Colts. Frank Reich is arguably the guy that's credited with Carson Wentz being successful, having that near MVP campaign in 2017 before he got hurt, going into the Super Bowl run that the Eagles had. That time is so far away, though. This is a guy who arguably is broken. Someone needs to kind of build him back up again, rebuild his confidence, and kind of go from square one with this quarterback and get him back to a true NFL level. You don't really know what you have in him right now. You know there's talent there, but you don't know if he's going to be the same guy. I think the Colts make sense because they have the running game. You talk about the coach fit with Frank Reich. And they have some weapons. Michael Pittman is a receiver that might develop into something. They might be able to go out and get another guy because they have some of the most cap space in the NFL going into this offseason. I think the Colts make a lot of sense. This Eagles situation is just untenable. Doug Peterson isn't there anymore. That's supposedly the reason Carson didn't want to be in Philadelphia, that there's a disagreement with him. But he still seems to want out of there even though Doug's not there. Howie Roseman might be the issue, and the Eagles seem motivated to move him.
Yeah, they got rid of Doug thinking that he was the problem, but Howie Roseman there's still trouble in Philadelphia, very clearly. Carson Wentz clearly does not want to play for the Eagles, so I don't think he'll be back next season. I think, as you said, the Indianapolis Colts are a perfect fit for him, but the Eagles are really asking for a Matt Stafford, Desean Watson type deal where they think they can get all these first-round picks, all these good players, but the amount that he regressed this past season is substantial over those two guys. Those two players are still playing football phenomenally. And I don't think Carson Wentz is going to garner that much attention. Again, the Colts, perfect offensive line. They have weapons, like you said. Their defense is outstanding. Frank Reich made him an MVP in 2017. But trying to get as much as they could possibly get, like they want 2 first rounds. They want players, but they're not going to get that. They're lucky if they get a first-round pick, especially for a guy on the contract that he is. Now, the Chicago Bears, they could also be looking at a quarterback in Carson Wentz. Mitch Trubisky's he's not the answer. Nick Foles, not the answer. Carson Wentz could potentially be the answer. I don't know how much a new change of scenery is going to do for him, especially at age 28 with how he's supposedly set in his ways according to agents and GMs, but a first-round pick would be lovely. They're looking at a second-round pick at most, in my opinion, for either of those teams.
The biggest problem with this deal is you're looking at, I think, a small market of teams that are going to sit here and say, we can fix Carson Wentz. We're willing to give up significant value for him. If you look at the Bears, how much better can you say Carson Wentz is than, say, Mitchell Trubisky or anyone else they have there right now? A little bit? Sure. A lot? I don't think so. So when you look at that, that's really what caps the amount of value the Eagles can get. They think they can get some kind of great package. Maybe Matt Stafford is a good comparison. That's not going to happen. There's an albatross of a contract, a terrible contract. And there's a player who you just don't know how good he is anymore. And it's going to take accommodating the team that actually wants to go get him. I think someone who wants to go trade for Carson Wentz actually has leverage against the Eagles here.
And albatross is a good word for that contract. And the Eagles will be lucky if they get even one first-round pick for Carson Wentz, but that's what they hope. Bringing it back to Houston, among the Desean drama, there was another bomb dropped when J.J. Watt left the Texans. Where do you see the best defensive end in the league ending up?
So J.J. Watt, he's at the end of his career. He's 31, 32 years old. He's dealt with some decline, clearly, but he's the only defensive lineman on the Houston Texans. In my honest-to-God opinion, I see him joining the Pittsburgh Steelers. He wants to play with his brothers. He's made the money. He's played phenomenal. I think the Steelers are still a competitor. He wants to join a competitor. He wants to compete for a Super Bowl. And more importantly, I think the Steelers defense, that's a perfect addition. Do they have a lot of money to sign him? No. So they'd have to clear up something for that. But I think J.J. Watt on that Steelers defensive line is just a perfect fit for them. Him and T.J. would just be an absolute beast a beast of a force for them.
Yeah, this is a guy who's served his time and paid his dues in Houston with a team that I'm sure he really loves and appreciates and has enjoyed his time there, but they've never really broken through. I think he wants to go somewhere where he can win and really fill in a gap for a team that doesn't have the best pass rush. To me, that team is the Ravens. Other than their edge rush presence, they're a pretty great defense. They were outside the top 10 in pass rush in sacks last year, but otherwise they can defend the pass really well, and they have a great linebacking core. They can stop the run. So if you put him alongside maybe Matthew Judon, we don't know if he will stay, but if you insert him into that defensive line, you can really upgrade that unit, make it even more dominant than he already is, and it'll be an interesting situation because, as you said, he might go to the Steelers, be with his brother T.J. Watt. Maybe he gets to play against his brother 2 times a year.
The Watt brothers on one team, just Lord help the AFC, but wherever he'll end up, he'll make a difference. There's some star receivers that may be up for grabs this season as well. Juju Smith-Schuster, Allen Robinson, and Super Bowl winner Chris Godwin. Which of these players do you think may be staying put, and which do you think will be finding a new home?
See, this is a really interesting group of free agent wide receivers because you have Allen Robinson, obviously, who is probably the best wide receiver to hit the free agent market in a while. He's a true number one. Wherever he goes, he's going to be the guy. The question is, how much does it factor in that he's played in with the Chicago Bears team and a Jaguars team before that, where he just didn't really have a great quarterback to play with? I think that plays a factor in his free agency. He's going to want to go to an established guy and be able to play with him. Lamar Jackson, I mentioned the Ravens already. On offense, they really had a limitation on the outside of their offense. They have Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews. Between the sticks, they're pretty good. But if you get him on the outside, you can really take him to that next level as a true number one who's been held back by that Bears offense. Maybe Lamar Jackson takes that next step as well. We haven't quite seen yet how great he can be as a passer. If you pair them together, you might really see that offense take the next step. You look at Juju Smith-Schuster as well. I kind of group him in with Chris Godwin a little bit as being those slot skill set guys. The question with these two is, how great can they be? Can they take on a bigger role as the number one guy? I'm not so sure with Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he's a little bit more of a complimentary guy, but more of a possession receiver, not really going to blow up the entire defense, take you over the top. But I think this is a guy who really offers you a lot in offense, a reliable pass catcher. And then finally, Chris Godwin. I like him to go to the Giants. The interesting thing about him is how much speed he has. Yards after catch, if you go short underneath with him, he can make some big plays out of that. The Giants don't really have that. They have some possession guys that are reliable catching the ball, but don't make these huge electrifying plays. Chris Godwin can do that and really help their offense take a step forward. Daniel Jones needs a guy like that.
I completely agree. Allen Robinson's definitely an addition to the Ravens on the outside of the numbers. But I see him going to Indianapolis, if anything, adding an outside presence like that. T.Y. Hilton's at the end of his career, but they got the young guys that they need. If they can get a quarterback like Carson Wentz, like we talked about earlier, I think Allen Robinson would just love to play for Indianapolis. Juju Smith, I do have to disagree with you there. His best numbers on his seasons come when he's playing outside the numbers as well. He's a great slot guy, but in the Steelers' offense, I don't see him returning there. I think drag routes, slant routes, and 2-yard button hooks just are not his forte. He likes taking on top off the ball. He's very dangerous in open field, and I think that is really where he benefits. So getting a team like that, like if he wants to go play for, I'd say, Miami or Los Angeles Chargers, and get with a young guy who likes to air the ball out, an air raid offense preferably, to just chuck the ball deep to him, I think that would benefit him substantially. And Chris Godwin, I see him going back to the Buccaneers. That's where his success was made. I don't see Antonio Brown returning, and I think he's a lovely number two. He has the most potential to be a number one out of him and Juju, but I think as of right now, he's a dangerous slot receiver, and I want him to prove himself more as an outside receiver on the Buccaneers. He's primarily slot right now. So I think he returns to the Buccaneers on a 3-year deal, big money, because that's what he deserves. He's got a lot to prove still, but I think he just continuously progresses under the right system.
Yeah, I think the Bucs need to do whatever they can to keep Chris Godwin. I think that's the best place for him. We will have to wait and see what ends up happening with all these players, but one thing is for certain, this offseason, this is not moving. Thanks. Okay.
This is not moving.
Okay, I'm going to start again. Yeah, I think the Bucs need to do whatever they can to keep Chris Godwin. That's the best place for him to be. We'll have to wait and see what ends up happening with these players, but one thing is for certain, this offseason will be full of chaos, and be sure to follow it along with us right here on Penn State Sports Night. For Jeremy Gaines, Evan Lasek, I'm Kelly Warner. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching this edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also, follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.